So a warm welcome and please give them a big round of applause. So they are here. आपल्यावरच्या प्रेमापोटी आपल्या कार्यक्रमासाठी आलेली ही माणसं आहेत आणि त्यांचं मनापासून खूप खूप स्वागत आणि आभार तुम्ही आलात. वी आर रिअली हॅपी. आणि आपले नॉट आउट बॅट्समन कालपासून आपल्याबरोबर असलेले आणि एन्जॉय करणाऱ्या आपल्या मेहंदे मॅडम आजही सकाळपासून आपल्याबरोबर हजर आहेत. And today also she's going to spend the whole day with us. So thank you, madam.
Please get back to your seats. It's okay to get back with a cup of tea. Our next chairpersons for this session are Dr. Devidas Deshmukh sir, who's our head of Department of Forensic Medicine, and our very own Dr. Avinash Pujari sir from the Department of Forensic Medicine. I request our dear chairpersons to introduce our speaker for today.
Hello, good morning everybody. I think our Myanmar staff is fortunate to have such a great personality for talk to us. He is very talented. To call him pediatrician or a lawyer or a medical expert is really difficult. Which phrase to choose? One thing is we are happy that whenever a private practitioner he faces some medical problem, there is nobody to solve it. But here in Pune, our IMA branch, he has taken the efforts, and Dr. Naurangi is here, who has done his DCH, MD, etc., and LLB also, where he has got 4 medals. You can see there. And the private practitioners in Pune, whenever they face the problem, they approach Dr. Naurangi, and he solved their problem. You can see the number of doctors he has actually solved the problems. Medical problems, more than 2,000 cases he has dealt here in Pune. So we are fortunate to have such a great personality. Gold medalist in his MBBS, MD, DCH, etc. This is the second person which I am witnessing. Previously, when I was a medical student, Dr. Ashok Kukde of Vivekananda Hospital in Latur, he was first in first MBBS, second in second MBBS, and first in final MBBS also. After that 30 years gap, I am facing such a great personality again, who is gold medalist in law, etc., and in our medical field also. So I shall not take your much time. I shall now request Dr. Naurange to deliver his speech. After this session, somebody can ask him the questions also.
Maimer is very glad to have you, sir, with us today. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone. Thank you, Professor Deshmukh sir, my colleague Dr. Pujari, Dr. Kurde madam, and all of you to invite me over here for this prestigious conference of 11th annual refresher course, in which the theme is Kishore Arogya. So without wasting any time, we will finish up several important practical topics related to medicine and law, and we will be covering, I am trying to encompass whole of the subject in next 30 to 35 minutes, and maybe 5 to 10 minutes we'll have questions if required. So whatever is going to affect the life of an adolescent, life of the child as well as an adolescent as far as law part is concerned, some of the things you might find them very new. Some of them you might be finding it rather repetition. But this is for everybody to know, and at the end, there is an important important law which is passed in 2012, and that is called as POXO, which is engulfing, I am using the word selectively, engulfing the practitioner's life and mind in a very big way, even for a general practitioner. Forget about adolescent practitioners, pediatricians and gynecologists, but even for a common doctor who is practicing in his dispensary, over there it is required, and in Pune district. So those also I will be giving the examples of how harsh it is. So it is very essential that you have to know these subjects to the extent what is practically required. I will cover up these things. Now coming to first part is the consent. All of us know very well that for every intervention with the human body by the medical practitioner, you require a written consent. For example, you are giving a vaccine. Now you will be somewhat odd. Are vaccine la kasla consent? It is required. Whenever there is likelihood of any danger to the person, there could be 1%, 0.1%, 0.01%, but you are actively interfering with the body system, you require a written consent. So only verbal consent and tacit consent, implied consent is not adequate, you require a written consent. So when to take, who is competent to give the consent? That is the major thing, very important issue. We have been always taught that you require the consent from a person who has attained the age of majority, which is age of 18, and who is of sound mind. So mentally he should be competent. But here is the difference. Let us understand the real thing. Indian Penal Code, which is 1860. So wherever the word Indian comes before law, it is made by Britishers. Today we don't use the word Indian. So whenever Indian, that means it is made by British rulers way back in 1860. Now what does it say? And this law is still valid. आता नवीन law येतो आहे, bill pass होणार आहे, पण हे तसंच राहणार आहे. भारतीय न्याय दंड काहीतरी आहे असं कालच संसदेमध्ये मांडलं गेलेलं आहे. पण this still prevails and this will be there. There will be no difference in this part. Now what does it say? That child below 7 years cannot give a consent. That is for blanket exemption, that child below 7 cannot consent. So even if he is having a good IQ, he cannot give a consent. Person above 18, definitely he can give a consent. He is an adult. So we are dealing with the topic, what happens between 7 to 18. So it is further subdivided into two, 7 to 12 years, 7 to 12 years, whether to take the child's consent. And here is the gray area. The court says, or whenever it goes to the court level, that child below below the age of 12 but above the age of 7, that is 7 to 12, it will be up to the court to decide whether he was of an understanding age of the acts, consequences, what he is doing. But child above 12, always take a consent. So this is new point which I am giving. Child above 12, that means every adolescent, you have to have a consent. But then, this is additional consent. Basic consent will be of the caretaker, adult. So supposing somebody is undergoing tonsillectomy, appendicectomy, MTP for that matter, the basic consent on the right hand side corner will be that of the parent or the caregiver or whosoever is in charge of the child. But if the child is more than 12 years, there has to be consent on the same paper on the left hand side of the principal consenting party. So this child becomes a consenting party. If you don't take a consent of a child, as far as criminal law is concerned, will be taken as wrong. It will be taken as an offender. So we urge upon all my surgeon colleagues and gynecologists and all those who are dealing with various procedures, ENT surgeons, ophthalmologists, whosoever is practicing surgery, and even for those who are practicing invasive procedures, that child's consent should be an additional consenting party to the person, that means the parent or the caretaker. So this is the first message I would like to convey in today's August gathering. The second is, this is more relevant to the gynecologists and the pediatricians who are practicing adolescent medicine, that there is, of course, we saw that Indian Penal Code, and now there is this new law called as POXO. I will elaborate upon this a while later. POXO stands for Prevention of Child Sexual Offences. So this was promulgated in November 2012. I am specifically telling the date because what happened in December 2012, I am going to tell you as a story. So what is the difference between the two? Indian Penal Code says that rape is non-consensual sex beyond the age of 15. So, sorry, between 15 and 18. 18 is the marriageable age. So there are many child marriages still going on. Whether with marriage or without marriage, if the sexual act is done with the consent of the other party, that is not rape as far as Indian Penal Code is concerned. But that is outdated now. This is one important thing which I would like to highlight. This is second point in my talk today, that any sexual activity with or without consent below the age of 18 is to be taken as rape. So that is a new difference. Previously, it was never registered under law, under criminal law, if there is a consent. And usually the people could get away saying that this was a consensual sex. Now it is not possible, even with consent, even with the married wife, which is itself illegal, below the age of 18, if the sexual activity or contact has occurred, it will be registered as an act of rape under POXO. So there is another difference over there. A question remains, and this is my question to everybody, but no clear answer has come so far. But I am working with 2 orphanages also. So I am coming across such situations. A pregnancy at the age of 18, see, child has completed the age of 18 and she is carrying, say 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 8 months, whatever. So sexual act must have occurred those many days earlier. Now, do I proactively inform the police? Inform means where? Inform the police. And here the law is silent. Once they cross the age of 18 and I don't inform, I have enough way out that I am not at fault. But even if I inform, I am not wrong. So this is one situation where it is borderline. A lady coming to us for delivery at the age of 18 years and 1 day. That means she had, supposing it is full term, 9 months before. So actually it comes under rape as far as POXO Act is concerned. But do I need to inform the police? This is too much of a breakage of confidentiality. So I can escape on that point also. So these are certain gray areas, but we will not go into those details. But I am just giving certain flaws in the law itself. Now coming to MTP in an adolescent. See, MTP Act comes into force for any age group. So from puberty or menarche to menopause, the person can remain pregnant with or without marriage. So MTP Act is coming into play, of course, for those specific indications to be done by the specific consultants who are already approved. That means there should be either DGO or DNB or MD Gynec, and or those who have taken that particular training and at a particular place. So these 3 things are required. approved consultant, approved place, and approved indication. So that is what is MTP Act. Now see what happens. If somebody comes to us, a girl at the age of say 16, and she has come for MTP, whether you will go ahead or not. Yes, you have to go ahead. Your medical degree comes first, so you have to go ahead. But then you have to proactively inform the police not under MTP Act, under POXO Act. So that is how it goes on engulfing your life. So MTP Act just mentions about who is approved to do it, what are the indications, and where is the place, which place. It does not mention about the age. If it is minor, that means 16 years, 15 years of age, you require the parent's signature as well as the child's signature. I told you, beyond the age of 12, you require both. If the grandmother has come, her signature and also the child's signature. But you have to inform the police. Don't forget to inform the police. What happens if you forget to inform the police, or if you intentionally do not inform the police under POXO Act, we'll see at the end. So no secrecy remains. See, MTP Act says secrecy should be maintained and no record should be given. Here we are going to proactively inform the police. That's a conflict of law. POXO will prevail over MTP. Please remember, POXO will the latest acts will prevail over the older acts. MTP Act is 1971, POXO is 2012. Now coming to PCP-NDT, this is another dilemma. Every now and then we are getting the calls from the radiologists, sometimes from gynecologists also, that here is a word of caution. Most adolescent girls seek medical opinion as well as seek direct consultation for sonography for, they call it as pain in abdomen. They would come as pain in abdomen or missed period. She may be carrying and she is minor. So here you have to stop the procedure. Every lady coming to you, I would say that if it is pain in abdomen, she may be carrying. For PCP-NDT, you require a F form to be completed. And you require the age proof. Age proof is best taken by, word of caution, most adolescent girls seek medical opinion saying that they are having pain in abdomen, which in fact for ruling out the conception. Maybe she has already done UTP herself. Don't fall in trap. And if you detect or confirm the pregnancy, you have to inform the police. Sonologist has to inform. Whosoever comes to know of any subject, but I said that everything which is covering adolescent should be covered. But word of caution for those who are doing contracts with the child for property reasons. On behalf of minor, adults enter into contracts. Flat sale kela, HF's sale kela, etc. Don't go in contract with such position all over, and then it is impossible or very difficult to come out of that. So that is one more escape, I mean good thing for adolescent, but bad thing for the one who is entering into contract. Adolescent and Motor Vehicle Act. See, I'm just taking some life situations where the adolescent age group is encompassing and touching the borders of law. Adolescent and Motor Vehicle Act, what does it say? Child under the age of 16 cannot drive an automated vehicle. Automated म्हणजे स्वयंचलित गाडी चालवता कामा नये, with gears, without gears. Between 16 to 18, they can drive they can have a driving license for a vehicle which is automated but without gears, and that too below 50 cc. 50 cc engine displacement. But above the age of 18, आपल्याकडे होत नाही सोडून द्या, but actually they should be put behind the bars because somebody else's life is getting endangered. So, observe the papers of the child and adolescent. Case paper किती वर्ष ठेवायचा? Of course, police registered cases preserve it forever, preserve it till you die. But otherwise, you keep it for 5 years. You have 18 plus 3 years, because 3 years is allowed for everybody. He has to get a chance. Obstetricians have to preserve this paper of the maternity record up to 21 years. म्हणजे किती साल येईल? 23 plus 21. 44 सालापर्यंत पेपर ठेवायला पाहिजे. Till the case in the court is finally, कुठली कोर्टची तुम्हाला नोटीस असली तर till it is finally तुम्ही त्याच्या विरुद्ध गेलात, Supreme Court, till Supreme Court decides. That is the finality. 17 वर्षानंतर. Here we have to just answer this way, just one line answer. कोर्टाचा कॉल आला सांगलीवरनं, हे ॲक्च्युअल घडलेल्या घटना मी सांगते. तुम्ही MTP केली होती ना, विल ऑलवेज ग्रँटेड ऑल द फ्रीडम टू द डॉक्टर. PCP-NDT ॲक्ट 2 वर्षाचा आहे आणि इन ऑल बघून घेऊ, मग आपण पॉक्सो ॲक्टकडे येऊ. कॉन्फिडेन्शियलिटी अँड सिक्रेसी हा नेहमीच कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग इश्यू आहे. There is government, this is governed by ethical norms laid down by NMC, National Medical Council. There is always a dilemma to the parents की ही मुलगी माझ्याकडे एकटी आली होती आणि अशी कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्ह ॲडवाईस मागायला आली होती. This is that dilemma. So I feel there is no clear-cut court verdict as yet that we should not disclose of our own, but if it is going to concern the child's health adversely, so त्याला आपण म्हणतो सिग्निफिकंट असेल की ह्या व्यक्तीला बाबा कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्ह पिल चालणार नाही आहे, there is thromboembolic tendency and you are going to give it. In that situation, we should be inform the parents first, counsel the child, inform the parents, and then inform. I'm negative. उदाहरणार्थ, a girl has remained pregnant. She has come to you directly. UTP के लिए sonography तुम्ही confidentiality and secrecy is very important. That you don't transgress and easily breach the confidentiality. When it comes to life, we should disclose. We should be calling the parents, take them in confidence, see to it the child is not harmed by them. काही religious communities मध्ये they can harm the child also. So that I am coming to what happened yesterday and today morning. Confidentiality has to be honored maximally unless it would be harming the child, and will be discussed further how it is conflict. And this is today's breaking news, that how the acts interplay with the adolescent killed in Prague University by one student who is 24 years old. This age came to surface today at 6 o'clock. Till then we were not knowing. I thought it is the same age group. But now he is an adult, so he is very responsible. But 16 students are killed. And this law does, I mean, how they tackle it. And one killing had occurred in the same university 1 week before also. Another thing is, a guideline has come from UK government that schools to keep parents informed about the child's wishes, but this is not made obligatory to yield to child's demands. To change the name, मुलाचा मुलगी व्हायचं आहे किंवा मुलीचा मुलगा व्हायचं आहे, transgender. This is that age group. Not obligatory upon to child's wishes that they must inform they must get it changed. Change the name, uniform pronoun, etc. Mr. च्याऐवजी Mrs. Mr. च्याऐवजी Miss करणं वगैरे. And help but then what is the mandate given to the schools now? This is their guideline. Help and support the child to develop the confidence so as they can inform the parents. See how the wording is खेळवलं आहे नुसतं शब्दांमध्ये. टीचर्सना कंपल्सरी केलेलं नाही, पण त्यांनी त्यांना मदत करायची आहे सो दॅट द चाइल्ड कॅन फ्रीली कम्युनिकेट टू द पेरेंट दॅट आय वॉन्ट टू चेंज माय जेंडर ओरिएंटेशन. सो this is given on 19th of December. How many days before? 3 days are yet to complete. Second is another story yesterday. Brianna Gay, she is herself a transgender girl. Murder case, she was killed in the month of February. In a ferocious killing, ferocious means terrible type of killing, by 2 teenage girls who are now 16 years old. Now they are 16 years, in Cheshire Park in London. Well prepared and cold-blooded murder on 11th of February 2023. They are now convicted. Sentencing will be done in the first week of January. And they have expressed no remorse. काही दुःख त्या मुलींना झालेलं नाही आहे, 2 मुलींना. And in their diary, they have written the 5 names who should be killed. First was this one. अतिशय क्रूर पद्धतीने 28 वेळा स्टॅबिंग करून त्याला मारून टाकलेलं होतं आणि त्याच्याबद्दल त्यांना काहीही आत्मक्लेश होत नाही आहे. गिंग नाहीच आहे, पण दे कॅन बी आपल्याकडे जुवेनल ॲक्टमध्ये काय होतं तुम्ही सांगतो, दे कॅनॉट बी गिवन सेंटेन्स मोर दॅन 10 years. ते पण निर्भया केसनंतर. सो दीज आर व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट चेंजेस विच ordinarily we are not aware of, but we should be knowing. And I am happy to Mayamar and Dr. Pujari and Madam Korde that I prepared all this for the first time. I am giving a talk on this topic for the first time, so I had to read a lot of things, and so that this becomes a comprehensive presentation as it stands valid and fresh of today. Many school student murders by other students in UK, USA, etc. आणि ह्यातली तुम्हाला जर उदाहरण पाहिजे असेल, भारतात होतं का? भारतातल्या माझ्या मित्राचं उदाहरण देतो, त्याचं नाव पण सांगतो, बिकॉज वन्स इट इज अ क्रिमिनल केस एव्हरीथिंग इज ओपन. डॉक्टर माइंडकर फ्रॉम सासवड, त्यांच्या मुलाला किडनॅप करून मारलं गेलं. अँड वन ऑफ द चाइल्ड वॉज द स्कूल मेट ॲट एज ऑफ 14. तेव्हा इथे पण हे होतं, पेरिफेरीला पण होतं. आता ह्याच्यात एक वाक्य अंडरलाईन केलं ते माझं मिस झालं. द किलर्स हु आर देमसेल्स जस्ट क्रॉस 16, द कोर्ट हॅज केप्ट देअर नेम एज एक्स अँड वाय. हिअर दे वोंट डिस्क्लोज द आयडेंटिटी. आता त्यांनीच सांगितलं आमचं आयडेंटिटी क्लिअर करा, आज त्यांनी सांगितलं सकाळी. So it will be probably disclosed in the month of January. If the consenting party is the child herself beyond age of 16, maybe they will open the names. We'll see. तेव्हा अशा ठिकाणी X and Y म्हणजे confidentiality is maintained. Now coming to the Juvenile Justice Act. There are two parts to this. Basically juvenile justice, juvenile म्हणजे काय? Below the age of 18. Juvenile delinquent असा शब्द पूर्वी वापरला जायचा किंवा चाइल्ड ऑफेंडर. आता चाइल्ड इन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट विथ लॉ. शब्द रचना बदलत जाते. जसं वेश्या व्यवसायाला आता चाइल्ड सेक्स वर्कर, आता प्रॉस्टिट्यूट नाही म्हणत. सेम वे द नेम्स हॅव बीन चेंज टू चाइल्ड इन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट विथ लॉ. इट इज नॉट कॉल्ड जुवेनाइल ऑफेंडर और बिकॉज ऑफ निर्भया केस. Because of Nirbhaya case. I asked 2 lawyers about this. They were totally ignorant about this. But we had to dig out all the information so that I can present it to you. This is done in 2 साली पब्लिश झाली, पण इंडियाने त्याला एक्सिड केलं 1992 मध्ये. That's why the law has come. Certain important points is that child in conflict with law असा शब्द आता है. Second is presumption of innocence. The juvenile should be basically Juvenile Justice Act है. JJ board in each district irrespective of criminal procedure code, and there will be separate child's court. थोडक्यात म्हणजे हे केसेस वेगळ्या पद्धतीने ट्राय केल्या जातात. दो दे आर ऑल कमिंग अंडर क्रिमिनल लॉ, दे विल बी ट्राईड फर्स्ट बाय द जुवेनाइल जस्टिस बोर्ड विच हॅज द कॉम्पिटन्सी ऑफ अ मॅजिस्ट्रेट. नो पोलीस लॉकअप इज अलाउड अँड नो रेग्युलर जेल इज अलाउड फॉर चिल्ड्रन बिलो द एज ऑफ 18. बेल इज द रूल. शक्यतो त्यांना जामीन मिळायला पाहिजे. अँड इन केस नो आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल दोज 2 गर्ल्स 16 years old, टेरेबल मर्डर, they cannot be given bail. So in that situation, observational home म्हणतात. Then another point is heinous act. This is added after Nirbhaya case. Done by child above the age of 16. Heinous act is now defined also that wherever the prescription of punishment is 7 years of imprisonment. That is called as heinous act. Case must be disposed of within 3 months. हे सगळं बरं का कागदावरती असतं. 3 महिन्यात कुठल्याही केसचा निकाल लागत नसतो. आणि इकडे तर पोरगं वय वाढत जातं. कित्येक लोक जुवेनाइल ऑफेंडर असतात. बाय द टाईम पनिशमेंट इज गिवन इज बियॉन्ड 18 years ऑफ एज. मग तेव्हा प्रश्न, ओपिनियन ऑफ द सायकोलॉजिस्ट और सायकेट्रिक सोशल वर्कर और अ सायकेट्रिस्ट डॉक्टर. रिफॉर्मेशन इन होम्स इज अप टू मॅक्सिमम 3 years. 3 वर्ष सुधारगृहात ठेवता येतं. नंतर सोडायला तरी पाहिजे किंवा अंडर ऑब्झर्वेशन ठेवायला पाहिजे पेरेंट्स बरोबर, किंवा मग मोठा झाला असला तर रेग्युलर जेलमध्ये. द रेकमेंडेशन ऑफ registered medical practitioner, तो पण सायकेट्रिस्ट पाहिजे. or else the person who is giving these substances to the child can be punished up to 7 years. And the 78 says that whosoever you to traffic those substances will equally liable to the punishment, same punishment as the first one. आणि child recruitment in militants group is also an offense. असे 112 sections आहेत. असा हा जुवेनाइल जस्टिस ॲक्ट आहे. व्हेरी मच इन फोर्स. मेडिको लिगल अँड एथिकल इश्यूज ऑफ द ॲडोलेसन्स सेज दॅट नार्कोटिक अँड सायकोट्रोपिक ड्रग्स, सबस्टन्स अब्यूज अँड जुवेन, दिस इज द एज वेअर दे फॉल prey to this. A burning issue and really widespread, and children are many times used, are victims but can be active in the offense also. They are tried under Indian Penal Code, CRPC, but children below 16 will be always tried under Juvenile Justice Act. They can be tried under Indian Penal Code, also CRPC, but punishment will be as per the Juvenile Justice Act. आता मेंटल हेल्थ ॲक्टबद्दल मी बोलणार नाही. मला खात्री आहे काल पुष्कळ त्याच्याबद्दल झालं असणार आहे. खूप व्हास्ट ॲक्ट आहे आणि खूप गोष्टी त्यातल्या ॲडोलेसंटला लागू आहेत. सो हिअर देर इज अ चान्स ऑफ रिफॉर्म, बट सम ऑफ द थिंग्स कॅनॉट बी रिपेअर्ड. सो दे विल बी परमनंटली or at 7 years, 10 years kept in the various sorts of observation homes. Now coming to the all important POCSO Act. POCSO Act, please remember, special acts overrule the conventional act. म्हणजे काय, POCSO Act आल्यापासून त्याचे relevant sections of Indian Penal Code will not be applicable. They are applicable, but they will be governed basically by this POCSO Act. They will override the provisions of it. जसं रेप बद्दल मी बोललो, below 18, even with consent, even consensual sex is now called rape under POCSO Act. So that provision will overrule Indian Penal Code. Special acts, all sexual offenses against children are grouped now together, and even protecting the male children. So it is applicable to both male and female. but more so female. Sexual assaults, harassments, pornography, social media are all covered. Repeat offenders get harsher punishment. आपण एका स्लाइडमध्ये बघूया ते. Presumption of innocence is already I have mentioned about this. Protection to the child informer. ह्याच्यात जे आपण इन्फॉर्म करतो, we are the informers as far as doctors are concerned when it comes to PCPNDT, MTP or for any other health matter. If you inform the police, the person who is informing is to be protected. Clinical presentations and manifestations differ a lot from adults of sexual abuse, and their diagnosis is sometimes very difficult. They can come to us for repeated urinary tract infection, repeated UTI, depression, aggression, not having social जे अतिशय प्रोएक्टिव्हली खेळत असतं, मुलांच्यात मिक्स होत असतं, एकदम विड्रॉन होतं, अभ्यास स्कॉलॅस्टिक बॅकवर्डनेस होत जातो, फॉलिंग अकॅडमिक लेवल्स. दीज आर सम ऑफ द outward manifestations of child sexual abuse. Apart from genital area trauma, that is different. ते तर सगळ्यांना ऑब्वियस आहे, परंतु presentation can be just psychological presentation. Offenses, all the offenses under POCSO are cognizable. म्हणजे ते असं विचारतात पोलीस, तुम्हाला माहीत नाही म्हणून सांगतो NC कशी करू, नॉन कॉग्निझेबल घेऊ, दखलपात्र घेऊ का अदखलपात्र घेऊ. दखलपात्र हे मेजर असतात. They are by default they are dakhalpatra, cognizable only. Number 2, non-bailable. They cannot be ordinarily given bail unless they are produced to the, म्हणजे पोलिसांना बेल द्यायचा अधिकार नाही. It has to go to the court. And they are non-compoundable. म्हणजे आपसात तुम्ही कॉम्प्रोमाइज केलं किंवा ह्याला इतकं दंड भरून टाका, याची माफी मागा आणि सुटा, they are, that is called compounding. They are non-compoundable. So every child is vulnerable to abuse, be it physical, verbal, psychological, emotional, sexual. More than 53% of the children have reported facing one or more forms of sexual abuse. 50% of sexual offenders are known people within the family. Kaka, mama, atoba, close relative or friend of the family, or sometimes a neighbor. And that's why it doesn't get reported. Teri bhi chup, meri bhi chup. अशा पद्धतीने हे झाकलं जातं. Onset of abuse is from 5 years, but I would add to this, it can be even below 5 years. Naradham जगामध्ये असतात. Boys are equally at risk as girls. And WHO has expanded the definition of rape as sexual violence. So any sexual act or attempts to obtain a sexual act using coercion, coercion म्हणजे force, mental force, याच्यावर सही कराच, आपण ज्याला म्हणतो ना सक्ती करणं, बळजबरी करणं, that is coercion. Threats of harm, नाही तर मग तुला मारेन, नाही तर तुझं बोटच कापेन, etc. So these are threats of harm or physical force. Also unwanted sexual comments, advances, acts to traffic or otherwise from and or directed against a person's sexuality, regardless of relationship to the victim, on any setting, घरामध्ये असू दे, शाळेमध्ये असू दे, मंदिरात असू दे, आणखीन हॉस्टेलमध्ये असू दे, including home and work. And definition of rape is now changed to sexual violence. मग sexual violence खरी या सगळ्या गोष्टी येतात. So how to suspect? सरळ हिस्ट्री दिली प्रश्नच नाही. Believe in the child. So first is innocence. Number 2, there would be marks on the sexual urogenital area or different parts of the body. Suspect when the suggestive behavior is there. For example, sudden emergence of sex-related problems is excessive or public masturbation. Age inappropriate promiscuity, seductive behavior, failure to thrive, त्यांचे भूकच उडते, total anorexia, or excessive eating, either way it can be. Withdrawn personality, excessive daydreaming, superficial relationship, कोणाबद्दलच आत्मीयता वाटत नाही, ममत्व वाटत नाही, that is superficiality. Poor relationship with the peers, lack of social smile, destructiveness, bedwetting, thumb sucking, हे फार किरकोळ झालं. Bedwetting, thumb sucking and enuresis is usually below the age of 5 years, but even it can recur in the adolescent period. Sudden onset phobias, भीती वाटते, पुरुषाबद्दल वाटते, स्त्रीबद्दल वाटते, fears, particularly fear of dark, strangers, undue fear. मी हे सगळं शॉर्ट त्याच्यात पुस्तकात खूप लिहिलेलं आहे. आय एम जस्ट टेकिंग वॉट एव्हर आय हॅव सीन. इनफॅक्ट सबस्टन्स अब्यूजकडे माणसं वळतात, मुलं वळतात, आणि सुइसाइडल अटेम्प्ट्स ऑर आयडिएशन, सुइसाइडचे आयडियाज यायला लागतात. More than 95% of sex offenders are relatives, neighbors, and friends. Hence, a majority of the cases go unreported. Among those which are reported, 90% are not believed, and 95% of the victims do not get justice because of lack of evidence. And lack of evidence is because of underreporting. Number one, don't come to the doctor at all. They tell something else. कोणी काही म्हटलं तरी नाही नाही तसं काही नाहीच आहे. Denial. And doctors do not document correctly. हे तर नेहमीचा problem आहे. Documentation failure. Continue to use two-finger test as evidence, and the private medical sector is not keen to get involved in these cases because of police harassment. Harassment आपण चांगलं करायला जायचं आणि तुम्हालाच 10 वेळा तिथे खेपा घालायला लागतात. हे डॉक्टरला नको असतं, त्यामुळे रिपोर्टिंगकडे थोडं दुर्लक्ष केलं जातं. So we'll see one act in little detail, and then rest are similar. Penetrative sexual assault, penetration of offender's penis to any extent into vagina, mouth, urethra, anus, or child of a child to, or make the child to do so, or with him or any other person, inserts any objects. It need not be the penis. It can be any object or body parts, manipulations, any part of the body of child so as to cause penetration, or applies mouth to the penis, vagina, etc., etc., or to make him do. याला सगळ्याला पेनिट्रेटिव्ह सेक्शुअल असॉल्ट असं म्हटलेलं आहे. दे सेक्शन नंबर 3 मध्ये ॲक्ट डिस्क्राईब केलं आहे. त्याच्या पुढच्या सेक्शनमध्ये त्याची पनिशमेंट दिलेली आहे, 7 years ऑफ लाईफ इम्प्रिझनमेंट विथ ऑर विदाउट फाईन. तशाच पद्धतीने पुढे ॲग्रेवेटेड म्हणजे काय? इट इज डन बाय द नोन पर्सन ऑर बाय द पोलीस ऑफिसर ऑर बाय एनी गव्हर्नमेंट ऑफिसर in front of whom we go with a complaint, आणि तोच त्याच्यावर पुन्हा रेप करतो. अशा तऱ्हेचे जे आहे त्याला म्हणायचं ॲग्रेवेटेड ऑफेन्सेस. त्याला नेहमीच एनहॅन्स पनिशमेंट आहे, दॅट इज ऑफ 10 years. सेम ॲक्ट डन बाय दीज पीपल, म्हणजे थोडक्यात म्हणजे मॅन विथ अ ट्रस्ट. वडील असतील, काका, मामा, आत्या, कोणी पण असू दे, फ्रेंड, नेबर, पोलीस, जजेस, इफ दे डू इट, इट इज टेकन एज ॲग्रेवेटेड अँड देअर ऑर रिकरंट offense done. Sexual assault is whoever with sexual intent touches the vagina, anus, penis, etc., or the breast, or makes the child to touch the vagina of another person, is sexual assault. But that's aggravated sexual, same type of people, then it is more punishment. Sexual harassment आहे, तोंडी आहे, ॲक्च्युली केलेलं काही नाही आहे, म्हणजे फिजिकल ॲक्ट झालेलं नाही, पण मेकिंग साऊंड, चेष्टा करणं, ह्या सगळ्याला व्हेरी डिफिकल्ट टू प्रूव्ह, बट केसेस आर देअर. Then use of the child for pornographic purpose. This is very good. This is done now. That whoever uses the child in any form of media, TV, internet, electronic media, printed form, etc., as advertisement or personal use or distribution for purpose of sexual gratification, etc., etc., त्यांना punishment दिलेली आहे. Rigorous imprisonment of 5 to 7 years or fine. Storage of such material in the for commercial purposes, imprisonment up to 3 years, etc., etc. हे सगळीकडे तुम्हाला वाचायला मिळेल. लेट्स गो टू द केसेस विच वी हॅव कम अक्रॉस, अँड आय विल जस्ट बिफोर दॅट गोईंग टू द केसेस आय विल बी टेकिंग अबाउट 6-7 minutes more. Reporting, this part is vitally important for doctors. Section 19 and Section 20. Here says that हे टेक्निकल भाषा सोडून द्या. Notwithstanding म्हणजे in spite of anything in criminal procedure code, त्या कोडमध्ये काही असू दे, any person, including the child who has apprehension, who has the fear that offense is likely, or has knowledge that the act is committed or attempted or abated, थोडीशी मदत केली त्या ॲक्टमध्ये किंवा अटेम्प्ट केलं आहे किंवा घडली आहे घटना, he shall provide such information to the special juvenile police if they are not appointed to the local police, and police to take immediate action. Action काय आहे? Protect the child, whosoever is complaining, medical examination, रिहॅबिलिटेशन. खूपदा ब्लिडिंग होत असतं, ह्याच्यामध्ये पहिल्यांदा हॉस्पिटलला हलवायला पाहिजे, मग बाकीच्या गोष्टी, इन्क्लुडिंग इन्फॉर्मिंग द चाइल्ड वेलफेअर कमिटी विदिन 24 hours. 24 तासाची मुदत त्यांना दिलेली आहे. नो सच इन्फॉर्मेशन विल इन्कर सिव्हिल. जो कोणी इन्फॉर्मंट आहे त्याला सिव्हिल क्रिमिनल लायबिलिटी नाही, परंतु तुम्ही नाही दिलीत माहिती तर 6 months इम्प्रिझनमेंट आहे. 6 months. सो डॉक्टर हॅज फेस्ड इन चंद्रपूर 2 doctors were awarded the punishment for 6 months by the Sessions Court. Of course, they got relief from the High Court later on, but cases होत असतात. Obligation for media, studio, photographic facilities, तिथे काही गडबड चालू नाही ना. If not हे आपण इन्फॉर्म जर केलं नाही, लॉजवाल्याने केलं नाही, हॉस्टेलवाल्याने केलं नाही, त्यांना पण 6 months आहे. फॉल्स कंप्लेंट केली, देर इज ऑल्सो, चुकीच्या कंप्लेंट केल्या जातात, डिफेमेशनसाठी असेल, प्रॉपर्टीच्या वादावरण असेल, कोणालाही उगाचच त्रास पण होता कामा नये, त्याला पण शिक्षा आहे. परंतु चाइल्डने जर खोटी कंप्लेंट केली, चाइल्ड बिलो 18, चाइल्डने खोटी कंप्लेंट केली त्याला सोडून द्यायचं, त्याला काही शिक्षा नाही. व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट फॉर डॉक्टर्स इज द प्रोव्हिजन ऑफ सेक्शन 3 to 13, म्हणजे मगाशी जे सगळे बेकार गोष्टी मी डिस्क्राईब केल्या, शल नॉट अप्लाय इन केस ऑफ मेडिकल एक्झामिनेशन. हे फार महत्त्वाचं आहे. आपण मेडिकल एक्झाममध्ये पर्टिक्युलरली गायनेकोलॉजिस्ट, समटाईम्स सर्जन, वी हॅव टू डू पर व्हजानल एक्झामिनेशन, पर रेक्टल एक्झामिनेशन, पर स्पेक्युलम एक्झामिनेशन, सिग्मोडोस्कोपी एक्सेट्रा. ह्याला तुम्हाला क्लिनिकल एक्झामिनेशन इन युअर क्लिनिक अँड OPD प्रोसिजर यू डोंट रिक्वायर अ रिटन कन्सेंट. दॅट इज मेड क्लिअर नाव by section 41. The provisions do not apply to the medical professional. So inspection, palpation, per vaginal, per rectal examination, per speculum examination are exempt for taking a written consent. And section पुढचे relevant नाही आहेत. So in short, to recapitulate, penetrative sexual act is covered by section 3. ते काय काय आपण बघितलं. Aggravated म्हणजे काय, done by a known person, not less than 10 years imprisonment. सेक्शुअल असॉल्ट म्हणजे काय बघितलं, हॅरॅसमेंट आणि यूज ऑफ चाइल्ड फॉर पोर्नोग्राफी. नाउ व्हॉट इज द प्रोसिजर फॉर रेकॉर्डिंग इज दॅट मेडिकल एक्झामिनेशन. आय थिंक मीनाक्षी मॅडम इज हियर, शी इज एन एक्सपर्ट इन दिस, बट वी वोंट एलॅबोरेट ऑन दिस बिकॉज वी आर सीइंग फ्रॉम लीगल पॉइंट ऑफ व्ह्यू. इवन इफ FIR or complaint is not recorded, child will be examined as soon as possible, feasible, particularly preferably by a female doctor whenever available. But if not available, male doctor can also examine. Don't withdraw from examining a girl just because the lady doctor is not available. It can't be. Primary aim of a doctor is to save the life, and that is paramount. You are protected. So even without police or judicial request, don't waste the time, but treat the child first. Time is important. That Supreme Court in 2000, as well as this section, is protecting us. Girl to be examined preferably by a lady doctor. So that is the guideline. And any person who has apprehension that an offense under this act is likely to be committed or has occurred, knowledge that offense has been committed, shall provide information to the special juvenile police or the local police. मला माहीत नाही पुण्यातले लोकल स्पेशल जुवेनाईल पोलीस युनिट आहे की नाही. आय विल इन्फॉर्म नंबर 100. सो दॅट इज द सिम्पलेस्ट थिंग. एव्हरी रिपोर्ट गिवन शल बी गिवन अ पर्टिक्युलर नंबर. हे जाऊ दे, आपण टेक्निकल भाग सोडून देऊ. शेवटचं वाक्य महत्त्वाचं आहे. इफ अ पर्सन हू हॅज इन्फॉर्मेशन ऑन द abuse fails to report, they may face imprisonment up to 6 months or fine or both. आणि इथे मी केस सांगतो आणि I will end up my talk. There are many more slides, but time is short, so we have to, every good thing has to come to an end. So what is it? Indapur, a taluka place in, मी नावं घेऊन सांगणार आहे बिकॉज दे आर ओपन, दे आर नॉट सिक्रेट. इंदापूरमध्ये डॉक्टर लहू कदम म्हणून अतिशय सज्जन डॉक्टर आहेत. ही इज अ पिडियाट्रिशियन, maybe 10 years junior to me, MD आहेत. A child came to his hospital at on 4th of January 2013 आणि मुलगी शेतामध्ये खेळत होती, पडली खेळताना, खरचटलं, वल्वावरती ब्रुजेस होते, म्हणजे CLWs होत्या. आणि डॉक्टर हॅड गॉन फॉर अन इंटरनॅशनल कॉन्फरन्स इन दिल्ली, पिडियाट्रिक कॉन्फरन्स. त्या पर्टिक्युलर वेळेला तिथले त्यांचे हाऊसमन होते. त्यांनी बघितलं, हिस्ट्री विचारली, कागद केला, बिटाडीन लावलं, टिटॅनस टॉक्साईड दिलं आणि काही होणार नाही म्हणून सांगितलं. आणि उद्या येऊन डॉक्टर येतात उद्याला, उद्या तुम्ही त्यांना दाखवा. नेक्स्ट डेला रेग्युलर खपली धरलेली होती, हे होतं, विशेष काहीच नव्हतं. चाइल्ड वॉज अप अँड अबाउट प्लेफुल, एव्हरीथिंग वॉज देअर. थर्ड डेला पेरेंट्स हॅड ऑल्सो कम. त्यांनी पण हेच सांगितलं की अशी पडली, असं झालं, तसं झालं. 7व्या दिवशी, फर्स्ट संडे टू नेक्स्ट सॅटर्डे, या सगळ्या गोष्टी सॅटर्डे संडे घडतात. आत्ताच आम्ही एका डॉक्टरला वाचवलं आहे मॅडम, बरोबर सॅटर्डेला पकडायला येणार होते. सॅटर्डेला या डॉक्टर लहू कदमांकडे 200 लोकांचा मोर्चा आला, सेईंग दॅट दिस इज अ केस ऑफ चाइल्ड सेक्शुअल अब्यूज अँड यू हॅव हिडन द मॅटर. देर वॉज सम रायव्हलरी इन दॅट तालुका प्लेस. जातीमातीचा पण प्रश्न होता आणि अनेक त्याच्यामध्ये गोष्टी नंतर बाकीच्या नंतर उघड केल्या आल्या आणि ह्या डॉक्टरना अटक केली गेली. ही वॉज इन पोलीस कस्टडी फॉर 7 days. तोपर्यंत हा लॉ काय आहे माझ्यासकट बहुतेकांना माहीत नव्हतं. तिथल्या पोलिसला मात्र माहिती होतं असं ॲक्ट. त्यांनी त्याला लॉकअपमध्ये टाकला. 7 दिवसानं वी मेट सुप्रिया सुळे, वी मेट कमिशनर कर्णिक, जो फेमस झाला पुढे मावळ एरियामध्ये गोळीबार झाला वगैरे वगैरे, ते त्यावेळी इन्चार्ज होते पुन्हा रुरल सेक्शनचे, त्यांना भेटलो. त्यामुळे कायद्यापुढे आम्ही काहीच करू शकत नाही. देन वी अपॉइंटेड अ व्हेरी टॉप क्रिमिनल लॉयर अँड कारण लोकल लॉयरचे ते ऐकतच नव्हते. हे लॉयर गेल्यानंतर त्यांनी पोलीस कस्टडीची ते चेंज इट इन टू मॅजिस्ट्रेल कस्टडी. थोडं जीवन सुसह्य झालं. आफ्टर फर्दर 7 days ही वॉज रिलीज्ड ऑन बेल. ही वॉज फाउंड नॉन गिल्टी. ही वॉज टोटली रिलीज्ड. परंतु 15 दिवस काय गेले असतील लक्षात घ्या. सो व्हेनेवर देर इज आता ह्या केसमध्ये खोटीच हिस्ट्री आईवडिलांनी दिली. अशा डिफिकल्टीज डॉक्टर्सने येतात. रिकरंट UTI in a 9-year-old girl and pediatrician said that I am suspecting. खोदून माहिती काढल्यानंतर कळलं की काकानेच चाइल्ड अब्यूज केलेला आहे, सेक्शुअल अब्यूज आहे, पण कळवायचं नाही. लकीली द पोलीस डेप्युटी कमिशनर वॉज माय पेशंट हू इज लेडी पोलीस अँड शी हॅड टोल्ड मी दॅट एनी ऑफेन्सेस अगेन्स्ट गर्ल्स अँड चिल्ड्रन यू जस्ट कॉन्टॅक्ट मी. त्यामुळे त्यांना आम्ही कळवलं. म्हटलं हे पॉक्सो खाली कळवलं. ती बाई नाही म्हणते, आई नाही म्हणते. नवीन होता हा ॲक्ट त्यावेळेला. करायचं काय नाही म्हणे माझ्याकडे पाठवून द्या. पाठवून दिलं आणि त्यांनी इकडे डॉक्टरना फोन केला. ठीक आहे, काही कळवायची जरूर नाही, केस दाखल करू नका, विच इज रॉंग. सी पोलीस कमिशनर टेलिंग रॉंग थिंग्स. आता मात्र मी तुम्हाला सांगतो याला बळी पडू नका. त्यांची कन्सर्न घ्यायची जरूरच नाही. लॉ सेज यू हॅव टू इन्फॉर्म द पोलीस, यू इन्फॉर्म द पोलीस. तुम्ही त्यांच्या पोलीस चौकीवर जायला पाहिजे का नाही, यू जस्ट इन्फॉर्म ऑन टेलिफोन. टेक डाऊन द बकल नंबर. हल्ली बकल नंबर पण देत नाहीत. मग काय कराल? नाव सांगत नाहीत, बकल नंबर सांगत नाहीत. मग तुम्ही नोंदवलं ह्याला पुरावा काय? 100 नंबर. एव्हरी कॉल इज रेकॉर्डेड. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, यू हॅव टू इन्फॉर्म द कमिशनर ऑफ पोलीस बाय ईमेल की सच अँड सच केस हॅड ऑकर्ड. आय हॅव ट्राईड टू इन्फॉर्म द पोलीस स्टेशन. दिस इज फॉर युअर इन्फॉर्मेशन. तुम्ही तुमचं काम केलं, तुम्हाला हॅरेसमेंट होणार नाही. ओके, सेंड अन ईमेल अँड ट्राय टू गिव्ह इट ऑन 100 नंबर. याच्यात डोक्याला त्रास करून घेऊ नका. ते तुम्हाला हॅरेसमेंट खूप होते, मला माहिती आहे. तसलं काही करू नका. अँड हाऊ टू रिपोर्ट, गो टू दिस वेबसाईट्स, देर इज अ रेड बटन एक्सेट्रा. यू विल फाइंड दिस फ्रॉम वेबसाईट ऑल्सो. सो आय विल कम टू दिस रोल ऑफ, 1-2 मिनटं आहेत सर. Role of RMP, that is registered medical practitioner, you and me, having an in-depth understanding of the sexual victimization, psychosocial aspects लक्षात घ्या. Obtaining a medical history is very important. Meticulously documenting the historical facts. Conducting a detailed examination. तुम्हाला त्यात competency वाटत नसलं, take them to the major hospital or government hospital or a hospital like Myanmar where all the facilities are available. But नुसती चिठ्ठी देऊन पाठवून चालत नाही आहे. त्याच्यावरची केस सांगतो. एक डॉक्टरनी significantly bleeding from external genitalia in a child of 4 years. And the doctor said he himself got frightened. It was furiously bleeding. And उत्तर काय दिलं होतं, हिस्ट्री दिली होती की स्टूलवरनं उडी मारली, ती खुर्चीच्या हातावर पडली आणि तो त्या भागाला लागला म्हणून ब्लिडिंग होत आहे. ॲक्च्युली इट वॉज द चाइल्ड सेक्शुअल अब्यूज. सो द डॉक्टर क्विकली रिफर्ड टू ससन हॉस्पिटल. आणि तिथे पाठवल्यानंतर ती केस निघाली आणि ह्या डॉक्टरना तंबीचा फोन आला की तुम्ही कळवलं कसं नाही. सो एकीकडे कळवा, एकीकडे पाठवा. अँड दॅट नोट शुड बी डन अँड नोट शुड बी देअर दॅट आय हॅव इन्फॉर्म द पोलीस. आणि त्या सगळ्या बाकीच्या जजमेंट्स आहेत. आय विल कम टू दिस. वन फीचर दॅट इज कॉमन इन एव्हरी जजमेंट दॅट हॅज बीन डिस्कस्ड, म्हणजे आता आपण शॉर्टेज ऑफ टाईममुळे डिस्कस नाही करत आहे, पण केसेस मी तुम्हाला सांगितले ॲक्च्युली, इज अ सेट ऑफ गाईडलाईन्स डिलिवर्ड बाय द कन्सर्न कोर्ट. अजूनपर्यंत कोर्ट केसेस बऱ्यापैकी जजमेंट्स त्याच्यावरच आहेत, कारण कित्येक गोष्टींची उत्तरं क्लिअर कट यस नो नाही आहेत. त्या ठिकाणी जजमेंटमध्ये काय म्हटलं आहे, जजेसचे काय व्ह्यू आहे, त्याच्याप्रमाणे आपल्याला उत्तर द्यावं लागतं. सो इज अ सोशल जेंडर न्यूट्रल लेजिस्लेशन इन द फील्ड ऑफ क्रिमिनल लॉ विच कॅन बी यूज्ड to its full potential only by the courts when they apply and interpret the provisions of the said act in cases falling within the ambit of the statute. Therefore, decisions made under the act hold immense relevance. थोडक्यात म्हणजे काय, जज कित्येक गोष्टी लिहिलेल्या नसतात. Judge made law is very important. That is called as obiter dicta. So with this I conclude my talk I think I'm in time, and thank you very much for a very patient listening. And really, it gave me the insights of tackling the new topic, and I'm quite enthusiastic to share all this slide presentation. This is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We had a very lucid explanation of all the medical aspects from Dr. Naurange. Sir, any questions from you? I am then asking the question.
Then my question is regarding that adolescent join the militant group. Then the parents are responsible for that. Parents can be prosecuted.
Sir, not necessarily every time. Not necessarily every time.
I give a specific example. It has happened with me. I was Assistant Director Medical Services in Jammu. I had got a Sevadar batman. He was a Mr. Hanif Mohammad Sipai. So what do I do my duties in this case? As a rule, as you say, that
So if they have, I mean, militant group, probably the one who has absconded to join the militant group. And if he's below the age of 18, we have to inform the special unit police force. So because they themselves are telling the history.
that he himself told
Yeah,
his brother.
the things.
And parents are to be questioned for that.
Parents are?
Because he is adolescent,
Yes.
then I have to inform, and parents are to be questioned also. Parents are taken to custody.
They would question, sir. They would question. But I can tell you from I would say corollary to this situation. 14-year-old girl, 16-year-old boy, etc., even 12-year-old. And they joined this ISIS and went to Syria. So here the parents were thoroughly interviewed or interrogated. But they are getting all the facilities of a regular UK citizenship. So they may be totally innocent, or if they are knowing or having some doubt, that doubt itself is not adequate to punish them. So this is, I'm telling from corollary in UK. I don't know what is the situation in India.
Sir, I am taking the privilege to ask you a question. Before 18 years of age, if a husband commits a sexual relations with his wife, it is rape. Thinking of both parties, they got married. After 1 month, she went to doctor for pain in abdomen, and she was found to be pregnant. She said that she is pregnant from her husband. Then in such situation, should the doctor should inform police, because if he inform police, husband will be caught. Husband will be caught again if the police registers a case for rape. He will be in prison for 7 years. What to do in
So
such
this is
situation?
precisely the situation what I was thinking about and describing, because I have faced, sir, at least 3 such situations in Sassoon Hospital's orphanage, where the girl has delivered exactly 7 days after attaining the majority. That institute called as Bharatiya Samaj Seva Kendra at 6 Lane, Koregaon Park, Pune. All the trustees of that institute are KM directors, KM Hospital. Now this sort of a situation came when she delivered. She had just crossed 18. So she must have conceived much before the age of majority. And the lady was not very sure to give up the child or not. So she came before the age of 18. She was saying that I will be giving her the child. So she stayed in the institute. Just before the delivery, she went home against not medical advice, against her wishes, against the wishes of the institute. And she said, no, I will keep my child because he is going to marry me. She delivered after 18, and then she changes her mind and gives up the child. So the law was not very clear about this, but because it was not informed, there was an arrest warrant against all the trustees of this Bharatiya Samaj Seva Kendra, numbering 12, and they had prosecution up to High Court level. And somehow they could convince the High Court that everything was done in good faith, and she had changing minds and different affidavits, and they could escape. But the case went on for 7 years. This is the situation. So I feel that given a personal voice, in my private, I will inform the police. I know they will be unnecessarily embarrassed. They will be unnecessarily harassed. But I should not be harassed to save them. But it is, I know it's very difficult to say, because one decision at least I know where it has gone in the favor of trustees. That is Kurus Koyaji and Statira Koyaji and all those people. So, very nice people, very good people, doing everything in good faith, but law can entrap you. There was harassment for about 6-7 years.
Sir, just a query from all the gynecologists also who are attending over here. Even now, if we declare the name of the person who is undergoing MTP, we are under a ambit of law and there is a criminal, you can say, punishment for that. Till now, till the MTP amendment was there, there was no such punishment for the breach of confidentiality. So what would you suggest? I mean, when people are asking me, I'm telling them, yes, you take a letter from the person herself that I want mine. There is no objection, NOC, that is from the person, of telling the name, because in case MTP requires general anesthesia or MTP requires any way that the patient's name has to be told to any other person excepting the doctor in charge.
It's a very, very important question, and this is what I covered, that POXO 2012 will override MTP provisions of 1971. Of course, it has been amended repeatedly, but that act is 1971. That is number one. Number two, you have to report to the police. Then how are you going to report that such and such sexual offense has occurred without taking the name? Supposing you say that I am not going to disclose the identity, so you will not give a photo, you will not give the name, but you have to give circumstantial evidence of the address, mobile number, this, that. So I feel that this is, in your opinion or as per the law, patient is saying, relatives are saying, nahi, postmortem nako, ata kashala chirpad karachi, is not an excuse. You have to inform the police. They will take a decision whether to go ahead or not. Same way, because it is a mandate in the POXO Act, I feel that you must inform. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your explanation. Any more questions? No?
So I request you to be on stage. Sir, what is your experience for pregnancies less than 18 years of age?
Madam, I'm not experienced in pregnancies below 18, but they are on the rise. I have seen 11-year-old girl undergoing cesarean section. 11-year-old, so she must have just got menarche and immediately she remained pregnant. 11 years and 13 years are 3 cases in this 2023. And they have delivered beautiful children, I mean by cesarean, but that's pathetic, I would say. It's pathetic.
As a doctor, what is our responsibility?
Our responsibility is, of course, to give medical treatment, save the girl, save the baby as much as possible, and medico-legally inform the police. We have to inform the police. And here the boy partner is harassed like anything. His life gets ruined, that is true. But that has to act as a deterrent.
I request the chairpersons to please felicitate our speaker. Sir, please. Thank you, sir. Medico-legal is going to be the biggest jinx in the coming years. So sir is here to help us with the same. Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time for us today. I request Dr. Sushma Sharma ma'am to please felicitate our chairpersons for the session. Thank you so much. It's time for yet another session, and I call on stage our chairpersons for the next session. Our medical superintendent, Dr. Darpan Mahesh Gauri sir, who's also professor of orthopedics, and our deputy medical superintendent, Dr. Dattatreya Gopal Ghare sir, who's also professor of obstetrics and gynecology.
So I'm glad to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Harshad Parasni sir. For Gynec community, actually, he doesn't need any introduction, but for others, I'll introduce him. Sir has done MD, DNB, FCPS, DGO, FICOG, FICS. He is very senior gynecologist, very experienced gynecologist, very well-known gynecologist. He is a gynec oncologist practicing in Pune. He is associate professor at Bharati Medical College. He is visiting faculty at BJMC and Sassoon General Hospital. He is also attached to Ruby Hall Clinic as oncologist. He is president of Pune OBGY Society for the year 2002 to 2021. He has been very compassionate teacher, guide, mentor, gynecologist, and he is available for us. We are fortunate to have you, sir, to guide us on very important aspect of vaccination, more of HPV vaccination. Thank you, sir.
Thank the organizers today from Myanmar Medical College, Dr. Sandhya Kulkarni, my good friend Dr. Vaishali Korde, Dr. Gayakwad, Dr. Deshmukh, Dr. Sushma Sharma, Dr. Fadnis and Dr. Pujari for inviting me to talk on something which is actually very dear to my heart, that is about the, I always pray to God to sail me through this presentation and help me out with all the queries that come out from the topic. A short disclosure, especially to be mentioned here, is that I have no interest or no affiliations with whatever I've been presenting, or there are a lot of medical products also on which I'll be talking about, and there is no, it's only for the sake of clarity and for helping us understand the presentation. The history of, why did this go off? Yeah. The history of development of vaccines actually dates back, way back from Edward Jenner in 1796 till what you see in 2021, when we have the COVID, which came up in a big way, and COVID vaccine was developed. So vaccination are among the greatest public health achievement of the 20th century. And there are a lot of lessons that we have learned from the past, especially when we had a human catastrophe from a lot of infective diseases, as you can see from diphtheria, pertussis, measles, rubella, and till date, when we just, in the last 2 years back, when we faced COVID, and that is the time we lost a lot of our near and dear ones in facing this pandemic. But all of these could have been prevented if they were vaccinated. But unless the disease occurs or comes up in a big scheme, on a bigger scale, vaccines are not developed, and that is why once these pandemics happen, they tend to get a lot of vaccines that are being developed. So immunization is not just for infants and children under the age of 5 anymore, but vaccination is important and it must be done for adolescents and adults too. When I talk of adolescents, I mean between the age group of 10 to 19 is what we would term as adolescents. Now, this is a age group, angles to this. Similarly, if you look at what I'll be speaking today is about the immunization and the vaccination that this group needs and needs, and we need to give it to them. Before I go ahead, there are two terms that are used very interchangeably. That is, one is vaccination and second is immunization. Mind you, vaccination is the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection from a specific disease. Whereas immunization is a process by which a person becomes protected against a disease through vaccination. Today, we need to target the adolescents for vaccination and for immunization. So now, why do we need to target these adolescents? India today is having a population of adolescents which is 1/3 of its population. That means we are one of the youngest countries in the world, where every third person is between the age of 10 to 24. And every fifth person is an adolescent between 10 to 19 years. So this group is going to be important for the country, and we need to actually look into their problems, not only social problems, but also health problems, and invest in the adolescents as a catch-up for the previously missed opportunities that these children may not have had. Or sometimes it is because of travel or study abroad that these children have to go, where you have to give a vaccine like a meningococcal vaccine. Or also, sometimes it happens that it is a higher morbidity in adolescents due to upward shift. Now, like in hepatitis A or in varicella, there is an upward shift of the prevalence of the disease, which was initially, say, between 5 to 7 years. Now it has shifted upwards, and that is when you need to again vaccinate them. Also, certain diseases that mumps, meningococcal infections, they are at a higher incidence in this age group. And last and most important reason why we need to vaccinate this hepatitis B. So I tried to look into data as to how much is the vaccination coverage, which vaccines are given, and to my utter surprise, there is no data on adolescent vaccination coverage. The universal, so what we have to depend upon is extrapolation of data that we have on the childhood, that is till 10 years of age, and we extrapolate that data and try to feel that yes, whether 10 to 20 years adolescents are vaccinated or not. So look at the universal vaccination coverage in India. In 2015-16, it was realized that our data was we hardly had 62 to 65% of coverage. So government started Mission Indradhanusha, where they tried to identify, enlist, mobilize, vaccinate, and track to achieve full vaccination. So the target what says that 2020 we should have more than complete 100% vaccination should be done for all the children. But what is the reality check? If we do the reality check, you'll find that full immunization is received in only 76% of the patient of this age group. And so consequently, these children when they become adolescents are again, we have nearly a 24% adolescents who never are vaccinated. So it is our collective responsibility as gynecologists, pediatricians, primary healthcare providers, teachers, parents to ensure that they are cared for and adequately vaccinated. So now let's look at the recommended adolescent vaccines that we ought to be giving. And this is the IIP schedule for 0 to 18 years, that is which was there from, which has now come, which is the latest, which is 2021. And in this, to shorten it up, as you can see, if you see for adolescents, the two vaccines that ought to be given and which is recommended are the Tdap vaccine and the HPV vaccine. Apart from that, you also need to give the annual influenza vaccine at this age. For a catch-up, that means for the ones who have missed the earlier vaccines, MMR, hepatitis B, typhoid, varicella, and hepatitis A should be given. And in high-risk group, pneumococcal, meningococcal, the Japanese encephalitis, cholera, rabies, and yellow fever should be given. So let's come to the vaccines which are recommended for all adolescents at the age of 11 to 13 years. And the first vaccine is the Tdap vaccine. Diphtheria, as you know, is a purely vaccine preventable disease. As I said before, the shift has now occurred to the right. That means initially in years before, we used to find that this disease was more prevalent between the age group of 5 to 7. Now it is prevalent also coming up very strongly after the age of 7 years. And India contributes nearly 87% of diphtheria cases that are reported globally. Similar is the case with pertussis. In pertussis also, we report more than 43% of the pertussis cases that are reported globally. Pertussis is an endemic, and adolescents are responsible for the spread of pertussis in the community. The most important point here is that the immunity to pertussis lasts only for 3 to 10 years. So you need to be vaccinating this age group. So internationally, there was a consensus that we need to vaccinate all adolescents at 11 to 12 years against pertussis, and this will again assure that we have a good herd immunity. Now, the Tdap vaccine should be given, first dose should be given between at around 11 to 12 years, and boosters of TD should be given every 10 years. The efficacy of the Tdap vaccine is 92%. Now let's come to the next vaccine, which is a very important vaccine, which is the HPV vaccine. Now there are a few points that we need to emphasize here. As we first have to understand that the human papilloma virus is a necessary cause of cervical cancer in nearly 99.7% of the patients. And there are more than 100 types of human papilloma virus that have been found. The subtypes out of these 100, there are few which are high risk and there are few which are low risk. The high risk ones are the one which will cause cancer, especially cervical cancer. As you can see, 16 and 18 subtype are the ones which will give rise to nearly 83% of cervical cancer in India. Whereas type 6 and 11 will give rise to 90% of the anogenital warts. How does HPV spread? It is basically by sexual activity, which is a close skin-to-skin contact during sex, or even a hand-to-genital contact could also give rise to the spread of HPV virus. Now, contrary to the belief that it is only the females who have an HPV positivity, which is what we see, the figures of India are somewhere between 6 to 7%. It is now realized that men or males are have more prevalence of human papilloma virus. In fact, I would again go one step ahead to tell you that it is the seminiferous tubules in the males which harbor these viruses, and that is why they are the ones who give it to the female partners, and that is why after the onset of sexual debut, the girls will have these will start having these viral infections, and as you can also see in this well depicted diagram. The human papilloma virus actually infects the cervix when there is an abrasion in the cervix. It will infect the basal layers. Once it infects the basal layer, then it will also infect the viral DNA and replicate in that, affecting the E1, E2, and E3, E6, and E7. And then gradually the viruses will be released into the cavity to again go ahead and infect further some another cells where there is abrasion. Now this continues, and finally this girl or who later on becomes a woman will have a cervical cancer. Not that everybody who has a HPV infection will have cervical cancer. What is important here is that you must have persistent infection, which is the one which is responsible for cervical cancer later on. Second point is that this infection has to be there for long, and after this persistent infection, the changes that occur in the cells are going to happen over years. They are not going to be acute. So even if a girl gets a HPV infection somewhere in late 20s, she is going to have cancer in the late 40s and 50s. That is how they will become manifest. In many cases, this HPV infection goes off on its own, or rather majority of the women, it just goes off on its own. Let's come to understand what is the demographics that we are dealing with. Why is this HPV infection so infection? Why is the vaccine so important? Now, as you can see here, the cervical cancer cases annually in India are nearly 1.25 lakhs, and the deaths are to the tune of 77,000. That means these figures are much more than what you have, than the women who die out of PPH. We are putting so much of stress and putting our logistics into government machinery into reducing maternal mortality, and that time we are addressing PPH. These many cases of PPH don't occur. So 1 in every 5 cases that occurs all over the world is in India, and 1 in 4 patients who dies all over the world dies in India. And the magnitude is too huge and too humongous, and that is why this topic is important. So there are a few facts about HPV vaccine that we should all know. This is the typical pyramid of the prevention. We have a big base of primary prevention with vaccination, above which stands the secondary prevention, that is by screening. Then comes the cancer treatment that as gynecologists we are giving, and then comes the palliative care. So primary prevention is the most important step in this whole pyramid and forms the base of the cervical cancer control. ICMR studies have shown that vaccination alone can reduce cervical cancer load by nearly 50%. So when should this vaccine be given? To understand that, let's understand what is the risk of cervical cancer at the age of first intercourse. Now, as you can see here, if the age is less, the risk is very high. So, vaccinate should be done before the onset of sexual debut. Let's look at some real world data. As you can see here, the risk of cervical cancer has been reduced by vaccination in a lot of studies. Not only cervical, till now we were always talking of cervical cancer, but in the last 3-4 years now, this has now expanded from cervical cancer to genital cancers, that means the lower genital cancers, vulva, vagina. Not only that, we are now talking of anal cancers, and we are also talking of oropharyngeal cancers. So this whole spectrum of cancers that can occur in this whole area can be prevented by giving a cervical cancer vaccine. So younger the better. That means you must vaccinate the adolescent early, before the age of sexual debut, so as to get a good efficacy. Even Gavi is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Even they have found that this is a very high impact vaccine. Now, why high impact vaccine? Just look at the figures. You can see that if you are giving hepatitis B vaccine, you are just preventing 10 deaths per 1,000 vaccinated. But here you are preventing 20 deaths for every 1,000 vaccinated. And the rest of the vaccination, whatever we are talking of, see whether it is Haemophilus, rotavirus, all the measles, mumps, all the others, they are all very small. The number of deaths that are prevented are very small. Whereas here, it is 20 deaths averted per 1,000 vaccinated. So how efficacious it is? How good is this vaccine? So a quadrivalent vaccine gives nearly 98% protection for cervical cancer, 100% cancer protection for vulvar and vaginal cancers, 99% for genital warts. Now, also, since the vaccine was first introduced to us in 2010, that is when we first introduced this vaccine in India, it is shown that in the last 12 years, not a single breakthrough case has happened. That means, breakthrough means a person has been given a vaccine and even then she has a cancer. So none of these cases have been found. I want to share with you the Australian experience. Now, why this is very important? Because there is a group of our doctors who keep on saying that, yes, we would still like to just screen the patients. So this is what happened in Australia. If you can see till 2007, the incidence of cervical cancer just remained constant with a good preventive program of pap smears and secondary cytology. But when the vaccination was introduced in 2007, there was a drastic drop of the incidence of cervical cancer. And not only that, along with that, today they are talking of eliminating cervical cancer in Australia and in New Zealand. So I think this is a dream for us because we still are far, far away from the percentages of the population who is screened and also vaccinated. So what are the vaccines which are available world over? They are Gardasil 4, 9, Cervarix, which is bivalent. Then we have a bivalent from Cicolin, which is from China. Valrinvax is again from China. But what makes us proud in this slide, what makes us proud is that it is our own Serum Institute who has come out with a quadrivalent vaccine, which is called a Cervavac, and which is a gender-neutral vaccine, cost-effective vaccine, which has got a very less cost, and most important of all is that its efficacy is as par with any other quadrivalent vaccine. These are the vaccines which are, but in India we have Gardasil 9 and Cervavac. Bivalent vaccine has been withdrawn from Indian market, so it is no longer there. Let's look at the schedule of a quadrivalent vaccine. It is for the age group up till 14, that is till you get your 15th birthday, you can just give 2 doses, 0 and 6, that is 6 months apart. If it is 15 to 26 years, for the next group, it should be 3 vaccines or 3 doses given at 0, 2 and 6 months. Now here, because of Cervavac was introduced just recently, in April, which was approved for boys and men up to 26 years. In Indian FDA has not yet approved Gardasil 4 for boys. Also, Gardasil 9 is approved for boys only for 14 years. I think these permissions will come in due course of time. This is what I am just stating to you so that it should be in your knowledge. Even if you want to give something off-label, you should be prepared to face whatever are the challenges of that. So HPV vaccination is now recommended by FOXI, it is by IAP, ACOG, RCOG, and I think every country has now accepted it that this is a vaccination which is of very much importance. Any side effects? Well, only fever, headache, myalgia, any vaccine that you give, this is going to have pain or swelling, pain at the site of vaccination. So the severity of these side effects are not much. They are not great enough to preclude compliance with the remaining injections. So it can be easily taken. I must put just a word here that we had in 2011-12 we had a big uproar and furor over some cases that happened in Khammam. Khammam is a place in Andhra Pradesh where Gavi, Government of India and WHO were actually trying to do a pilot project of trying to give vaccination to girls. And there were 7 deaths. There was a huge cry in the parliament that these deaths, because of the deaths, the vaccine should be withdrawn. Mind you, the vaccine got withdrawn. But later on, when the district authorities did fact finding, they found that these children had not died, these girls had not died because of vaccination. Some had died because of OPC poisoning, someone had died because of drowning, somebody who had drowned because of fall, some accident. So none of them were related to the HPV vaccine. Now, just as a byproduct of something, see, all things happen for good. I always maintain this. And when I'm saying this, of a population of say 50,000 girls, some were given 1 dose, some were given 2 doses, some were given 3 doses, and they stopped the trial. What did the IARC, that is the international agency in France, what did they do? They just studied these 3 groups. One who received 1 vaccine, one who received 2 doses, and one which received 3 doses. And they found in these girls that even 1 dose is sufficient, and even 2 doses. So even if the trial was normally, would not have stopped this trial. Because the trial was stopped, now we are now coming with the newer schedules that yes, 1 dose is also effective, 2 doses is also effective. Now, a position paper, now this is just now in 2022, WHO has come with a position paper to say that you can give for 9 to 14, 1 or 2 doses. They to say that till the age of 20, you can still keep on giving 1 or 2 doses, and more than 21 years, you must give 2 doses after 6 months. So now comes the question of interchangeability of vaccines, because you might have Gardasil available or Gardasil 9, or you may have Cervarix. Somebody must have taken the first dose. What about the second dose or the third dose? So yes, as far as possible, try to stick to that same vaccine. Please don't shift over from one type of company to another, or one brand to another. But in case it is not possible, interchangeability is also permissible. In HIV positive patients, we have to be a bit more aggressive, and you must give 2 doses in the age group between 9 to 15, and all the 3 doses between. Along with this, you must also actually do screening later on. Screening is very important because these patients tend to have other subtypes which we have not included in this vaccine. They can have disease, cervical cancer disease. So all in all, WHO has now put up to us a strategy which says that by 2030, 90% of all the girls less than 15 years should be vaccinated. 70% of all women should be screened till the age of 45. And 90% of all the women who have some cervical pre-invasive diseases should receive treatment. Now, we all need to strive towards this goal. I know it's very hard because presently, let me give you the actual figures. When you are seeing 70 years, you just imagine that the number of women who are screened is only 1 to 3% in India. I will not ask for a raise of hands, but you have to ask yourself, have you got yourself screened for pap smear of all the female doctors who are sitting here? That is how we would start when we have to attain this goal. I think that percentage is very small. Secondly, do these women actually get the treatment for the pre-invasive disease? Is the treatment available, and have they taken it? Again, that is a big question that has to be answered. And as far as girls are concerned, please promote and vaccinate as many as you can. So the motto today, as far as I am concerned, or we are concerned, is vaccinate the daughter and screen the mother. This is what was our motto when I used to be talking about this around 5-10 years back. But today I'm going to add the son also here. So it should be vaccinate the daughter and the son and screen the mother. Coming to the next vaccine in our portfolio is the influenza vaccine. We all know that we have influenza A and B, which are seasonal epidemics, and type C, which gives mild respiratory illnesses. And it is type C is not covered by the vaccine. The recommendation is that we must give yearly vaccine. Now, why yearly? Because every year the strains are going to change. So you can either give an inactivated trivalent or a quadrivalent vaccine, or you can give an intranasal live attenuated influenza vaccine can be given. Mind you, if you are giving a quadrivalent inactivated influenza vaccine. Single dose should be given every year. And the best time to vaccinate is the time when you actually the new strains come. Actually, most of the times in US, they are released somewhere around February, March. That is when the new strains are released. And why this is done in February and March? Because before rainy season is the ideal time to take the vaccine. And this vaccine is very effective. It is with a good match. Now, how do you know the effectivity? If the strains that are in the vaccine are also in the strains which are there in outside, that is the infective strains, then if it's a good match, then you have a protection of nearly 70 to 90%. With an imperfect match, it's around 40 to 60%. But what is important is it prevents hospitalization in around 50 to 60% of the immunized individuals, and that is very important. Coming to the catch-up vaccination, that is the ones where you have failed to take vaccination in childhood for some reason. Here the schedule that IAP recommends is we must go ahead and give MMR 2 doses at 4 to 8 weeks interval. 3 doses of hepatitis B that we have been given, that is 0, 1 and 6 months. Hepatitis A, 2 doses at 0 and 6 months. Typhoid vaccine should be taken every 3 years. It should not just be taken when your child wants to go for swimming, because that is the commonest reason when people go to the doctors that my child wants to go for swimming and that is why I'm taking it. No, please go ahead and vaccinate yourself every 3 years. Varicella, 2 doses at 4 to 8 weeks interval. Now coming to high risk cases where adolescent vaccination should be given. Now here you have the reasons for these high-risk conditions, or the high-risk conditions that are there are going to be when you have chronic cardiac illnesses or renal illnesses, pulmonary illnesses, or you have an immunodeficiency, or there is functional or anatomic asplenia, hyposplenia. So there are all these high-risk conditions are there, or you fall in a high-risk group. That means there are pets in the house, or we are in an endemic area, or you want to travel for all you know, or there is a dog bite. That is where rabies vaccine has to be given. So here we have to follow this IAP recommendation for immunization in special circumstances. So coming to my key points of what I've been talking just now to you is that vaccination in adolescents is a pillar of good health for future years. Adolescents should receive Tdap, HPV and annual influenza vaccine. Cervical cancer prevention program should be made universal. The catch-up vaccination and vaccination high-risk cases should be individualized. And what is the need of the hour today for a healthy future generations is adult immunization. So let's promise them a better tomorrow and vaccinate them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a very wholesome lecture that you delivered. You touched not just on the HPV and related vaccines, but you made it a point to talk about all the important vaccines related to adolescent health. About the HPV vaccine, we all are aware that it is proved, and we all know about its high efficacy and high impact since almost past 10 years. But still the level of awareness among even the medical fraternity is still at a low level. So I think it's a high time that medical advisory bodies like FOXI, IAP and other bodies, they can, I'm sure they must have recommended the lawmaking agencies, the governments, to try to introduce it in the UIAP, I mean Universal Immunization Program, so that it can be provided free of charges. I think cost is the only limiting factor for widespread application of these vaccines. And government should direct all their policies in a way to ensure that even the rural population are well covered. And I think the schools, particularly in the rural area, can be a very good avenue from where we can deliver these vaccines. And only then we can achieve our true goal of eliminating or trying to reduce the incidence of gynecological and other cancers. Thank you, sir.
I think it is the Serum Institute is on the verge of having their Survivac introduced into the immunization schedule for all the girls in all the schools. So it is just in the pipeline. I think anytime it will be announced and it will come.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for this elaborate talk. And
I have a
you
question
covered
regarding
everything.
this ketchup rubella vaccine.
And you covered very small details like IAP chart for those who have missed out for vaccinations. It was about influenza, hepatitis, and all those things. More emphasis on this HPV thing, which you covered, including pathogenesis, how it occurs. You also make mention that even not only girls but boys also to be vaccinated. That is a very important message. And another part is we need to screen the mothers. Now for the audience who are non-gynec, the cancer cervix, it affects the age group which is like 40 and around. So it's actually young, reproductive, productive, very important age group, and it's not old age type of disease. And that really makes the family suffer a lot. It's not only illness but morbidity, financial, emotional, and otherwise, and it can be preventable. So very important thing is screening, like pap smear or whatever screening methods we have. They are cheap, easily available. They are not very expensive, not complicated wise. They are not procedures. They are not like surgeries. So they are available here in periphery also. So we request all about vaccinating the kids, that is boys and girls, and getting the mothers tested or screened for HPV thing or cytological thing, and so that we can offer them primary, secondary, tertiary, whatever layer they are caught. So thank you very much, sir, for all these details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the audience? And one more important announcement, like we have registered here, those who can register for HPV vaccination. Like sir also made mention that our own city of Pune and Serum Institute has come up with a quadrivalent vaccine. It's a big thing. It's on global platform. It's an achievement for all of us. It makes us proud. So there are news about, Punawalas buying the expensive house in London, but this news which is probably more important than that, and we are proud of it. We have a register here maintaining those who are enter their name, register for their kids or children, will get a concessional cost for the vaccination. So please see to it that those who are near ones, dear ones, available ones, you register so that they get benefit. Thank you, sir. Questions from audience?
I have got a question regarding ketchup rubella vaccine. The MMR is given at 9 months or 18 months of age. When I ask adolescents, have they taken MMR at 9 months? They say we must have taken, but we don't know. We were 9 months or 18 months age. Our parents may be knowing. Any record is available, that is also not available. So what to do at adolescent age? Should we make compulsory for all these persons? Because I am seeing so many cases of the rubella cataract, rubella retinopathy, because this vaccine is not given. So if you make mandatory at adolescent age, is there any harm? I am asking this medical student, MBBS student, third year. This same thing is there. We don't know. Our parents might have given, might have taken. We don't have record. So what to do in these cases?
Yeah, actually, 2 points here. First is that after 1989, that is when the EPI was actually introduced, where MMR was also has come into picture. That is the time I think most of the children who are born after that, after 1990, have actually received, because for especially the ones who are staying in the urban areas, so I think a lot of them, it is very common. I'll tell you what, even I'm a cancer surgeon. I operate on them, I give them their discharge summaries and ask them to follow up. Within a year's time, that important discharge summary which mentions where the disease has spread, everything is lost. He just comes back to me and tells me, sir, I don't have anything with me. So if this is the level of our, not only our caring for ourselves, especially for the papers, imagine what would be about these vaccinations. Who will remember whether they have been given MMR or not? So your point is well taken. There should be looking at the fact that so many patients are now coming up with rubella complications also. Taking a rubella vaccine for sure before getting pregnant is I think is very much in the recommendation. As far as whether to make MMR compulsory in the adolescent group, I think that has to be left to the, it is a recommendation, but it cannot be made mandatory. I think it is should be left to the pediatrician, the IAP and the FOXY to decide, or the government to take a call on that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harshad sir. May I please request you to remain on stage, and may I request the chairpersons to kindly felicitate Dr. Harshad Parasnis for that excellent session, which has, I'm sure, opened a lot of discussion which can go on, I think, over lunch, for which we'll be breaking soon. I think this opens up a lot of discussion about the authorities and changing policies in a way to achieve better health for all of us. So, Chairman, please, may I request you to felicitate sir. A big round of applause for that wonderful session. And may I request our Professor Dr. Jitendra Mane to please come up and felicitate our chairpersons, Dr. Darpan Mahesh Gauri and Dr. Gopal Khare. Thank you, dear chairpersons. Thank you once again. With that, we come to the lunch break. We'll break for lunch now. Lunch is being served in the building across the corridor in between. After this, we'll join back in the same auditorium for a wonderful panel discussion at 2 p.m. sharp. So please do join us and enjoy the lunch, and hope to see you exactly at 2 p.m. sharp for a nice panel discussion. Thank you.